Good morning, everyone. Welcome out to Sky Bacon Stadium. It's 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. Calm before the storm, basically. We're going to have the Class 4, or excuse me, Class 5 and 6. Teams going here. You'll have to bear with me a sec, folks. I'm trying to get something happen here with my... There it is. I'm sorry. And we've got a good preview show here for you today. We're going to be joined by the Webb City head coach, Andrew Doennig, here not too much longer. Got Kevin Moulder here. We're going to break down some information and talk some high school baseball. And looking forward to a very fine day of baseball. We're going to start with, I believe, Fort Zumwalt South and Festus. Then I believe, 1 o'clock game will be St. Francis Borgia versus Webb City. And then our afternoon starts off with Francis Howell versus Jackson, and the nightcap Nixa versus Liberty North. And so it's going to be some really good baseball with these teams. I've got some information here that we're going to go through real quick while Kevin is here. He's finishing up a conversation on the phone over there, so we'll get him in here and talk about these teams here just shortly. But I did some research on these teams as we've been looking through, and there's some really, really storied schools here, and then there's some that have been successful but not just quite broke into the Final Four. And to me, that's the biggest thing is you're dealing with here on Friday afternoon. Festus, who we will see here this morning squaring off against Fort Zumwalt South. Last year they finished second in the tournament. They've had a third-place finish and a fourth-place finish since 2009, and they've recently had 5 district titles, 2012, 2017, 21, 22, and 23. So the last 3 years they have repeated as district champions, which I think is very impressive. And when you're talking about that kind of success, you're bound to see some really good talent. And I'll get Kevin over here to talk a little bit about that talent here in just a second. Zumwalt South, they've had district titles since 2009. They won the state title in 2009. They are district champs 2010, 2012, 2014, 21, and 23. 21 and 23. They were here. They finished 4th place in 21. So that was their only 4th place finish. They've also had a 3rd place finish and 2 second place finishes. They had a 2nd place finish in 2022. And so, you know, that's right. I'm sorry. I said 4th place finish in 2020. That's incorrect. It was a 2nd place finish. They'd lost to Willard in the championship in 2022. Yes, I think that's what my goodness. I know it was 2022 they finished 2nd because Zumwalt East had finished 4th in that one, and they got beat by Willard. So they've lost to Willard in that championship game. Nope. That's incorrect. I'm going to have to check that, folks. I'm going to go to... I'm misremembering some of these things, and it's kind of a mess here that way. I'm sorry. So we look at the championship brackets for that year, 2022. There it is. Class 5. Platte County, excuse me. Yep. And that was 2022. I had that year wrong. It was 2021 they finished second. That's what it was. So that's where they had lost to Willard in the semifinals. Actually, that's where they did finish fourth in that one, because then they turned around and lost to Rockwood Summit in that. So in 2021 they were in fourth place. 2022 they did not get there, so I just wrote that wrong. It was a fourth place finish in 2021. My fault. Sorry for the misinformation there. St. Francis Borgia, they've been around a while doing their thing. District titles in 2011 and 2019. 2023, they had a state title in 2019. Second place finish, and I don't always think they were Class 5. I think that might have been a Class 4 on that state title in 2019, and I'm pretty sure that is correct. We'll give it a real quick glance here with St. Francis Borgia. Yeah, now that was Class 4, because this was the year right before they moved to Class 6, and so you had those the classes were much different. And I got the Webb City head coach coming over right here quick. He's walking up, so we're going to get him in on the mic and the headphones and do our thing. Grab those headphones, bud. See if you can hear me, for one. That's beauty. And you'll just go ahead and kick that microphone on. Perfect. Andrew Doennig, right?
Yep.
Did I say that correct?
Yeah, you got it.
It was interesting, folks, and I appreciate the phonetic spelling, Coach, you sent me.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals, man. Growing up, I mean, you go to the same school district all your life. You got siblings, and people still mess it up. So I'm used to it, but it's all right. So I just spell it out for everybody.
Hey, thanks for taking the time this morning to come by and talk to us. I really do appreciate it very much.
Appreciate you having me on.
Congrats for the Final Four. That's just that's monumental in and of itself, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for our program. Since I've been at Webb City, we've won our district 6 times and kind of never made it past that last round, that quarterfinal round. So it was good for those kids to get over the hump, and so I mean, I knew, we've had some really, really good teams in the past. There's a few years where we were in Class 5, and so we're always matching up with Kickapoo and Nixa and all those guys every year, and so. We had some teams early on in my coaching career at Webb that had a real chance to make it, but you run up against Kickapoo's got a guy and this guy's got a guy, and it just makes it tough. So, Webb City has always been a pretty good baseball program, and it's a great baseball town, and but yeah, I mean, making it this year has been just a great experience for everybody.
I do like that they separated those two at the top, with the Class 6 and the Class 5. I think that's been good for programs like yours, what you said there, and I think it's been good for the state of baseball in Missouri.
Yeah, it's been good for people like us, Willard, and all those guys. That we've always been really good at baseball, but now we kind of got our own class to separate ourselves from those bigger ones. We're not playing schools twice our size and everything. So it's been good for baseball. For sure. Because
and that's the thing here. You're talking about depth. It's not that you don't have good baseball players, but when you're talking about that next level, it is about depth, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, and so, we went down to, and we play a few Class 6 schools throughout the year. We've got, we've had Rockbridge, we've had Howell on our schedule for years, and, playing those guys. And, you roll out there on a Saturday, we're throwing our number 3, and, he's a low 80s guy. Well, they're throwing their number 3, and he's a high 80s guy. I mean, that's a little different. And so, we went down to Springdale, Arkansas a couple weekends ago, and they're throwing a guy, and he's upper 80s, and I'm just like, holy Toledo, man, this got to be the best pitcher in our conference, type of deal. And then, then we go to Fayetteville, and they're throwing a sophomore, and he's running up there in the upper 80s. You're like, geez, Pete, and so it's different, when you get on those bigger schools, but. It's good to compete against your kids your own size.
Absolutely. This is our first opportunity. We see a lot of schools because we're up in the metro area. We're working to get down. That's why I'm so glad to see you guys here and taking the time here. And What do we expect to see here, Coach, from you guys?
Well, I mean, it's I mean, somebody not too long ago said that we weren't very, very good offensively. And, I mean, I think it's a byproduct. If you look at our numbers overall, I mean, they're probably not super great compared to some other people's, but I think a lot of that's a byproduct of who we've played this year. And of course, first off, our conference is unbelievably difficult. You're talking, I think McGee put it out the other day of like, we're teams that made it to the Final Four where they finished. The years they made it, they didn't even win the conference. And like this year, like us and Nixa are tied for third. But it's like we had a 1-run loss to Willard. In our conference, the last game of the year, we had a 1-run loss to Nixa, and so I mean that's what separates in our conference. It's just 1 run here and there, but so the depth of our conference is awesome, and it prepares our kids all year long. But with our kids, it's Webb City's a blue-collar town. It's hard-working kids. It's hard-working parents. We're not a real, affluent area. So you're going to get kids that show up every day and work hard. And so you're going to see kids today show up and, they're going to play their guts out. And that's just kind of what we ask them to do every single day. So we'll get up there and we'll pitch it a little bit. We'll try to play good defense. And, the thing we've done, I think, pretty well over the last month or so is just coming up with some timely hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a difference, right?
And that's the name of the game at this point, and I mean, it's, so we've pitched it pretty well, and there's always a joke going around with our football coaches, and stuff. It's hard to lose if the other team doesn't score, so that's kind of what we go with sometimes.
Talk about your pitching staff. Who are some of the guys we're going to see?
Kaylor Darnell, he's a senior. He's our number 1 pitcher. He's had a pretty good year. He had a rough first couple of starts. Didn't pitch real well, and then kind of turned a corner. He went undefeated in our conference, went 5-0, and he actually didn't give up a run in conference play, which is pretty awesome. And so you'll see him. He'll start today. Drew Vonderhaar will start this game tomorrow. He's a junior who's kind of came on kind of partway through the season. He threw a little bit, kind of a weekend guy. He actually beat Kearney the first time we played them up there in Kansas City, and so he's kind of come on lately, and started throwing a little bit better, so he'll be another guy that pitches. Then we've got a handful of relief guys. Our biggest one's a kid named Walker Sweet. He's kind of the end of the game guy that we go to. He's probably our highest velocity guy and come in, and he's pitched in some really tough situations this year for us and got us out of a lot of jams. So you'll see those will be the 3, but you got kids like Brett Korth, Peyton Marshall, Hunter Scholl, maybe Gage Chapman, our center fielder, and then we got 2 sophomores that I'm not sure if they'll throw this weekend or not. Luke Beverlin's a left-handed pitcher that we thought would be a really good guy for us. And then we got a kid who was probably halfway through the year we probably considered to be our number 1 pitcher. His name's Landon Fletcher. I mean, he's a 6'3" right-handed pitcher, and he beat Republic twice. He pitched here against Nixa and went 7 innings against them and should have had the win. We didn't play great defense behind him that day. And then went and pitched 7+ innings against Ozark. Should have had the win there. But he ended the year 5-0 with like a 2 ERA. So I mean, he's a good pitcher, but he's kind of out at the end right now with an injury, so he won't get to pitch. But those are 2 other kids who've thrown a lot for us.
Wow,
yeah.
Wow, love that sophomore stuff right there.
Man,
that bodes well for the future, doesn't it?
Yeah, just you knew they were good. Last year with freshman baseball and stuff. These guys are pretty good, but you never know. But man, we threw Landon out there this year, and he comes here and pitches against Nixa, and you're like, holy cow, man, this kid's pretty good.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing, like you said, your conference isn't Joe Schmo's.
No, no, I mean, it's one of those deals where, man, you better come to play, or, I mean, the worst team in your conference is going to beat you if you're not careful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk about your offense, Coach. You said that's where you kind of struggled this year. You just kind of grind it out.
Yeah, we've had a lot of moving pieces this year with our lineup. We've moved some guys around, trying to see who's best at doing what. We've really kind of struggled to find a leadoff hitter early in the year, but we kind of settled into a kid with Sam Weller, his left-handed hitter. Does a great job. He probably hits for a little bit more power than you'd think. He's not a big guy, but, he'll hit a ball or 2 out every once in a while at practice. And then our 2-hole side, Darnell, our shortstop, he had a great year offensively last year, and that numbers are kind of down just a little bit. I think that's because everybody knows who he is type of deal. Our 3 holes, our catcher, Big Sean, a little bit more of an offensive than defensive guy behind the plate. Then 4 is Drew Vonderhaar. He's had a really, really good year for us. I mean, he's hit some balls this year where, it's like if the wind wasn't blowing in 20 miles an hour, it's out of there. So, I mean, he should have probably 4 or 5 home runs. Then we get our DH spot has been kind of just a big revolving door, and we're kind of like back to where we started with it. So Christian Brock will be the DH, and then Kenley Hood, our first baseman, will be in the 6th hole, and then Kaylor Darnell, the starting pitcher, will be 7. William Hayes will be 8, and then Gage Chapman. Gage, ironically, is in our 9 hole, but he's actually kind of first or second in our team in batting average. But that's just, he does a great job. Turn it over. He can really run when he gets going. So he's done a fantastic job for us this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of Class 5 baseball this year. I don't know how much you know about these teams. We've seen Zumwalt South twice. They got a couple of dudes on the mound with Carter Cox, and I know that's only championship or third place,
right.
Depending.
Yeah.
And Connor Hankey. Festus, I know they've got a couple arms there. Your opponent today with St. Francis Borgia, they've played some really good baseball. What are you expecting to see from them, Coach?
I anticipate we'll see their best guy, the Nobe kid. Maybe not. I'm not sure how they'll roll with it. But, we've heard a lot about him, seen some video and whatnot. And, in things like this, when you never play people like this, you just kind of got to take the information and do the best you can with it. So, we've heard he's a high 80s, low 90s velocity guy. He's got a real good slider. And, so we try to replicate that stuff in practice, but of course you can never do that as well as it comes out of a kid's hands. So, we'll show up today and kind of hopefully fill it out for the first 2 innings. And hopefully, the thing is, if you can get some kids to put good at bats together early in the game, you start to feel better. And that was, I think, what we did great last weekend. We didn't strike out early in the game. We put the ball in play. Everybody got some confidence, and we started getting some hits. So, we'll show up and we'll take their best shot and we'll give ours.
I think it's interesting because, the one thing that I think is in your favor is you guys are used to seeing that kind of velocity.
Yeah, you go through our conference, you're talking about the Massey kid from Willard, he's an upper 80s guy. You got the kids from Nixa that threw against us, they were high, and then you go down to Harbor and those guys. You see the guy from Rockbridge, you see the guy from Fayetteville, and stuff, and so we've seen velocity all year. So it's not something that's and everybody's different, of course. You got to figure it out. How's it coming out of their hand? But this is the reason why we played some of the games we played. And so we can be prepared for this stuff, and you're not worried about it. Okay, this is not different than what we've seen. So, it'll be interesting. It'll be a big test for us for sure, but I think we're prepared for it.
Outstanding, Coach Andrew Doennig, folks. Coach, good luck to you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I appreciate you taking the time. We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll, I know you. I try to stay neutral.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's going to be a fun weekend. I think it's some great competition here this weekend.
Yeah, it's fun. Playing people you never play in a different environment, so it'll be exciting for everybody.
Absolutely. Coach, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, folks. Hopefully we're going to get Mr. Moulder over here and chat it up a little bit. But we appreciate Coach Doennig stopping by, taking the time out of his day to talk with us. I'll tell you, folks, I think that's going to be a dandy at 1 o'clock. Just an FYI here, it's Misha. You can check it out. The URL link is in the description down there. You can check out the games today. You can watch online and see the games. I think that you can watch all of it for one price. So they're doing some really good stuff there. Anyway, we're going to get back to, we got the guys warming up on the field. As you can see, we've got Fort Zumwalt South here in the gray pinstripes. And, of course, Festus over there in the black jerseys. 2 teams that from the St. Louis metro area, Festus down in South County, Zumwalt South, St. Charles. We've seen St. Charles, and I would imagine we're going to see Carter Cox. We saw Carter Cox twice this year, once against Fort Zumwalt North and once against Fort Zumwalt East. Both games, Carter Cox was flat out dealing, throwing strikes, not walking guys. I think he allowed 1 run against Fort Zumwalt North, and No, that was, I believe, a shutout. That was a complete game shutout. I think 2 hits, and he allowed 1 run against Fort Zumwalt East. So Festus has got their work cut out for him if Carter Cox is on point here. He's a tremendous lefty, and then that still leaves Connor Hankey. It'll be interesting if Coach goes to Connor Hankey. I don't think so. I'd say you're probably going to see Cox today. Those decisions, and, we're going to have Coach Friedel. It'll be later this afternoon, so we'll have some information. He said we'll have him stopping by the studio here for our afternoon session before we get to the Class 6 games. But I'm going to see if we're going to be able to get Kevin here just a second. He's still on the phone over there. Okay, that's probably not going to be the case today. So, anyway, folks, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Zumwalt South crew here. Connor Mendel, the catcher, is working with the pitchers here. Connor Mendel, that is one of the best catchers in the state. Just a junior here this year. Started as a sophomore. We're going to get Kevin in here, and he can fill you in on the players because he's much better at it than I am.
Don't.
I know he's busy. But appreciate it. It was a great conversation with Coach Doennig from Webb City. He just was in here. That I think that was fun. I'm sorry you missed that one. We got Festus and Zumwalt South down here.
Warming up.
It's going to be a good day, Kevin.
It's going to be a lot of fun. This is probably my favorite day. I know tomorrow we're going to crown some champions at the 5 and the 6A, but this is like the March Madness, the Final Four. The first day is probably better than the championship because you got 2 great games, and today we get 4 great games. We got 4 semifinal games, 2 at the 5A, 2 at the 6A. We've been talking about most of these teams all year long, and they're here, and it's going to be a lot of fun to take it all in today.
We're probably going to see a really good pitching matchup here with 2 lefties, right?
I believe Carter Cox is going for South. Festus is not throwing Mason Shermer in the first game. I actually talked to him last night at the game, at the last game, the 4A championship. So they're saving him, and that's kind of what we were talking about with Coach P a little bit. It's like, hey, that's where these guys earn the big bucks. Like they're making decisions. As you recall, Festus was here last year, won the semifinal, lost out in the state championship. This year they're going to try to flip it and save their ace card. So we'll see. You got to get there. And Zumwalt South has been one of the stronger teams all season long. There's no layup here, so it's we'll see how this works for Festus.
But I like Connor Hankey behind Carter Cox, though. Connor Hankey's a really good pitcher.
No question about it, and that's part of the reason they're here. They got depth, and South has depth of a 6A team. It's not just so. We talked a little bit about this the past couple days with some of the differences between some of the small schools, really good teams, but maybe not quite as much depth. They might have a guy on the mound instead of multiple guys, and certainly, especially out of the bullpen. And when I say a guy, I mean a guy that's moving on to the collegiate level, a guy with some velocity behind, strike throwing, and at this 5 and 6A level, you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, I think so.
The depth of Jackson, Francis Howell, Liberty North, Nixa is really impressive, and same with Zumwalt South, and So you're going to notice a little different level of play at the 5 and the 6A.
Offensively, who do you think has the advantage here?
That's where Festus is possibly have a chance there. I like some of their bats.
Mm-hmm.
But South, they started 4 sophomores in the lineup last year. Those guys are all juniors, so they got experience. But I do like that Festus lineup. So that's going to be, that's something to keep an eye on. And that's Carter Cox. If he's on, then they're in great shape. Now, there's been days when command can fade from him and get away from him. But if he's locked in, that's his, one of the top lefties in the state.
I said to you last night, and this has been the experience I've seen for the last 2 years with Carter. If he's going deep in counts early, you got to be careful. But if he's getting people out early in counts, getting ground balls, getting the swing and misses, it could be a long day for Festus. That's what we've seen. I mean, it was for East. We saw him against East. They got 1 run, and he complete game. I think it was like 4 hits and like 10 Ks. And so when he's getting guys out early and he's not going deep in counts, it just seems he really finds that groove, and he's really hard to hit.
Yeah, and now if you're Festus, the game plan's going to have to be let's make Carter Cox uncomfortable. We got to grind out at-bats. You can't give at-bats away. You got to stay in the strike zone with him. You want to find a way to get deep counts. You maybe want to try to bunt for a hit. Definitely try to get things going on the bases to not necessarily take the base, but to disrupt him, to distract him, affect his command that way, make him as uncomfortable as possible.
So the second game, Webb City, St. Francis, Borgia. What is it? The young man for Borgia.
Jack Noby. Boy, now, I was at his sectional game versus Glendale. And Glendale has been one of the top teams in the state. They were in our large school top 10 rankings. They got a really deep lineup. And Noby pitched phenomenally. He's heading to Xavier. Athletic, 6'2", 6'3", right-hander, up to 91. So that's going to be a big arm that we're going to see here in the second game.
When we were talking with Coach Doennig, it was interesting because I think that was one of the things. He throws hard, and but Glendale's in that same conference as Webb City. These guys are used to seeing arms like this, and for nobody to really go through that lineup like that kind of sets him in a different category.
And he's more than just a hard thrower because he has a really good slider. Mm-hmm. In his fastball, the radar gun's the radar gun, and it's going to say a number. Not all 90-mile-per-hour fastballs are created equally. And, we can get into a conversation down the line about spin rate and metrics and things like that. But he's got a live fastball. His 90-mile-per-hour fastball is different than a lot of other kids' 90-mile-per-hour fastballs, without getting nerding out too much into the metrics there.
Well,
Yeah.
And that does make a difference when you start talking about run. We've talked about that, and that's the terminology. We'll just call it he's got good run on his fastball, right?
Yes.
And that's because of spin rate.
I would switch that to life. He's got good life on his fastball because run is going to be like horizontal movement, and there are certain guys with lower arm slots that have like run, which can be good, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be swing and miss. Good life on a fastball is life or a live fastball. That's what we're looking for, and he has it. You'll see at 1 o'clock.
You heard it from the guru himself. Had to throw that in there, Kevin.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, make sure you check out Prime Sports Midwest. We got up there, YBMcast, always powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. We got some great stuff going on this summer. Prime Sports Midwest there in O'Fallon, or I'm in Fenton. Check them out online, primesportsmw.com. We appreciate them sponsoring us and taking care, and we appreciate what they do for youth baseball in the area and for YBMcast. Kevin, we got two good ones going here. We're going to have an afternoon session here. Like I said, we're going to hope to get Coach Friedel. You know, there's a guy right there. We don't see this much. Coach Friedel, he's the head coach of the football team. He's the head coach of the basketball team, and he's the head coach of the baseball team.
You don't see that very often, especially at a 5A. And, you know, maybe at a small town you might see something like that. What that tells me, though, is that if you're a young man at Francis or at Fort Zumwalt South, you better be on good behavior if you want to be an athlete at Zumwalt South and make sure he likes you.
I don't know when he has time to do anything else.
Talk about holding the hammer. I
Oh,
mean,
man. That's a
you can't get away from the guy.
I never heard of that in my life. I really hadn't.
Coach, I'm excited about baseball. My football coach is terrible.
And, you know, that's the other thing. He has success.
Oh, he's done a great job.
At all.
A great job.
That's what's amazing to me. You know, it's hard enough having success at one sport, let alone three.
It's a throwback, and I love it. You know, we're in an era of specialization and the one sport athlete, and you know, personally, I'm a huge fan of multi-sport athletes at the high school level.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I'm sure Coach Friedel would be supportive of that opinion as well, would be my guess.
And I asked Brett Norfleet yesterday. He was here on the set.
What Brett have to say?
And I said, so football, baseball, he likes baseball. You know, he said, when my arm's right, he goes.
Yeah, now for him, you know, he went through a period where the shoulder wasn't right, and I'm sure he didn't like baseball too much when, you know, it's not a fun sport to play when you got a messed up shoulder. But the nice thing about baseball, assuming your arm's feeling good, is no one's going to hit you. Maybe by a pitch every now and again, but no one's going to blindside you, right?
Exactly. You know, and I mean, that kid just is gifted, hammers the baseball, can pitch, because honestly, he can play the game anywhere he really wants to, can't he, Kevin?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Brett's a special, you know, if without football, he'd be good enough to play at Mizzou for, obviously.
Obviously.
He's got big time raw power. You know, we talk about, what is this? Is it Sky Bacon Park now?
Sky Bacon Stadium.
You know, and they do a great job here at this venue. But you look at it, this is a big old pro park here. This is old school professional baseball. It's 330 down the lines. It's 375 at the beginnings of the gaps, and it's 400 to dead center. But then the way the wall's constructed, it's actually bigger, slightly to the right of dead center and slightly to the left of dead center field. And then we were looking at about a 20-foot fence?
Oh,
20-foot
easily.
wall.
Easily.
You know, so this is a big yard, and there aren't many high school hitters that can get one out of here. Brett Norfleet has no problem getting one out of here.
Right. I've seen 2 home runs myself, and that was McCutcheon last year and Naz Zanatello.
Zanatello and the other young man that has done it, who put it like 3/4 the way up the scoreboard, was Reese Robinette.
Yeah.
And Jake McCutcheon, if we're keeping score, is at Missouri State. Zanatello is going to be the top positional player in Missouri in the draft and is committed to Arkansas, signed with Arkansas. And, you know, Mr. Norfleet is a football player, baseball player, Mizzou signee. So there you have it. Those are the kids that you've seen do it.
That's it. I know. And you can see by, you know, the way how shallow, especially the early classes they played. You know, these kids were not deep in that outfield. I think you'll see that a little bit more today, though.
So last night we saw a couple attempts at inside the park homers, one successful, one unsuccessful. And that'd be a talking point for a coach, especially in center field, because those gaps are so big and just to dead center. But if you dive, you better get it. Especially if it's more of like a line drive.
Right.
Now, if it's a fly ball in the left or right fielder have time to back you up like they're supposed to, you can make a dive. But if you miss in center field, they're going to be circling them all, which is what happened last night.
Right.
There was one down the line that happened, and it was a bang-bang play, and the runner was out. And it was a good baseball play. There was 2 outs. It was good baseball all the way around. The relay was right on, and they got him out. But the inside the Parker is in play here, and it's a great park for triples.
Yes.
Great park for triples.
Yes.
And outfield defense is at a premium because we got field turf. The ball's going to get into the gaps quickly, and obviously it's very spacious.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. These guys are getting ready here to they're finishing up their infield and outfield here for Fort Zumwalt South. Looks like they're going to be the home team here today. Do they flip the coin for that?
It is a coin toss.
That's what I thought.
Now, so what I don't know is, do they do that the night before? We got to ask one of the coaches.
Yeah, I when do
I
they
would
do
think
it?
You'd want to know for uniform standpoint, and even just like your itinerary to tell your guys, hey, we're on an IO first. Starting pitcher,
right.
Time when we're getting hot, etc.
Yeah, because if you're the home team, you don't want to start too early.
Right. As I look down at the bullpen right now, and actually both pitchers are on the mound right now, and there's 23 minutes till game time. We still got player introductions, and South has been here. They were here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Festus was here last year. That's where you do have an advantage because think this isn't normal, like the pregame stuff. This isn't like a regular high school game where, I see the umpires, that means we're about to start. We still got to do the introduction of the lineups, the full anthem. There's some ceremony here before we get going with the ball game.
And I mean, and like I
which
said,
can disrupt a pitcher's timing in particular, a player's timing. It's just, you talked about the errors early in the ball games yesterday. You just got to find a way to settle into your routine. Not, and it sounds kind of weird. You want to make this as normal as possible, even though it's not normal whatsoever.
Yeah. And, you've coached a long time, Kevin. In these situations, what did you do? How did you talk to your players in these kind of situations?
Yeah, you would, we would have scouting reports and team meetings, and we would talk about this stuff before we even got to the ball yard. Coaching at the collegiate level, some of your guys have been through it at state championships and whatnot. You're dealing with 19 to 22, 23-year-olds as opposed to 15 to 18-year-olds too.
Right.
So you can. It's a little bit different, but yeah, you want to prepare your guys beforehand, and I would think that most of these teams had meetings and talked about the week heading into it, what we're looking at and what to expect.
I think that's one of the interesting things, like you said, you talk about scouting reports and things like that. And here we see the coaches coming out, they're watching the teams because they ain't never seen these teams. The Webb City coach, he's never seen St. Francis Borgia. He's not. These are unfamiliar. It's unfamiliar territory, and scouting reports are pretty non-existent for these high school coaches, right?
Right. Yeah, and honestly, that's a little bit where maybe I come in. Not that I'm giving anyone information, but they can pull up prepbaseballreport.com and see what a Brett Norfleet fastball looks like, what a Jack Noby's delivery looks like, what his breaking ball. So I'm certain that goes on a lot, where people are trying to get whatever video they can on a guy. And some of these kids are semi-famous and have been on social media, and you can pull up videos of them at recruiting events and or highlights and whatnot. So you can get some idea of, hey, we're about to face a mid-80s lefty with a really good breaking ball today, or this kid is this or that.
I like the fact of what you said, just trying to get an idea of arm slot. I think that's the biggest thing, because as an umpire, even I'd never seen a pitcher before, and if a kid's throwing it in the upper 80s and hitting 90, I got to see, to call a ball and strike, you have to see the ball early, just like a hitter. You got to see it out of his hand to track the ball for the longest amount of time possible.
Agreed. I think that's more important than knowing the velocity, because you're going to know the velocity pretty quick. You can watch a kid warm up, and then even, the first pitch or two of the game, all right, he throws hard, or doesn't throw super hard. But a slot, and then knowing what type of pitches he throws. What type of, is it a slider? Is it a curveball? Does he go to it often? How's his changeup? Does he have a changeup? Four-seam or two-seam guy with the fastball, or both. Does he pitch up in the zone? What does he do with two strikes? Can we run on him? Those are the things that I find more valuable than knowing if he throws 89 or 80.
And I've always found as an umpire, if you got a good catcher, they're usually pretty honest with you, because you'll ask them, I haven't seen this guy before. What's he got? And, it's like, his fastball's good. It'll run in or something like that. Doesn't have very good breaking ball, though, Blue. We're not going to throw that.
And a good catcher will let an umpire know, so he's not fool. You don't want to fool everyone in the park, which occasionally will happen. And to respect to the umpires, that's tough. So if you've seen the breaking ball before for the guy behind the plate, that's going to help him stay with the pitch. And if he doesn't throw a breaking ball for the first 3 innings and he drops one in there, big spot, you can fool everybody. We've all seen it.
I've been there, done that. You're like, oh, that must have been a strike because I didn't see it.
Right.
And it was on the inside. It disappeared. Oh, mercy. So, well, hey, Kevin, we're going to get ready for this. We'll be back this afternoon. We're going to talk before we get to the Class 6A. I know. I'm with you. I'm used to the A's and stuff. I try, because Misha always just puts Class 6, but I'm from that place too. I always say 6A. But thanks. Always a pleasure. We'll be back. Like I said, hopefully we'll get.
Can we keep the temperature in this breeze like right where we're at right now?
It's nice.
They
said no.
I don't feel like we're going to feel this way at 1, 2, 3 o'clock.
Well, that's what the weather forecaster said. It's going to be not that way at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and we might have the pop-up showers.
Oh, great.
So
get wet, too.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. So, but we'll be back. We'll see who has finished off here for this Class 5, and we'll head into 6. And Kevin, as always, man, pleasure.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun day.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you joining with us. Remember, 4 o'clock we'll be back. We'll preview a little bit of the Class 6. Until then, all you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all after a while.